afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Here we go. I normally say thank God it's Friday, but man, it's Thursday. We got one more to go.
Yes.
And I think we're throwing people off a little bit today because normally we come on as noon on Friday, but now it's noon on Thursday. What's going on? What's going on, bro?
To me, I mean, it's got to be something very interesting going on for something to happen on, thank God it's Thursday.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I'm just waiting. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat to find out what these ladies got to talk about on today.
That's it. So the information that we got here for today's CareSouth Carolina Community Live podcast is so good and so necessary that we had to bring it to you a day early, right? Right,
Yeah.
a day early. But if you don't know, and you normally if you're new to the broadcast, my name is Mark Calhoun. I'm the Director of Social and Community Services for CareSouth Carolina. And I'm always here, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, for my partner in crime.
Oh, me? Oh, I'm Daniel Myers. I'm the Director of MATHD Services for CareSouth Carolina. And I'm always glad to be on this podcast with my ace in the hole, Mark Calhoun. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. But yeah, like we said, man, we've been doing the podcast now for about, I don't know, going on close to about 2 years now. I think it is.
Yeah.
And it was born out of the pandemic, like many other podcasts have, and just kind of wanted to get the information out to the people because at one point we couldn't get out into the community because of the pandemic, right? So it born out of something that we were able to kind of continue and establish and get information out. But one thing this pandemic has done and has taught me, it's given me a renewed sense of making sure that my mental health is taken care of, that there's self-care and there's understanding not only just for me but individuals in my family, my friends, and making sure their mental health is taken care of, or at least put them in a place to where give them the direction where they can take care of their mental health. And so we always get an opportunity to learn more about how to do that, we take that opportunity, and that's what we want to give the folks today.
Oh right? Yeah, definitely. And and just like if you can look at the screen, you see what it says: youth mental health, which is something that's overlooked by a lot of adults. And one of our guests, who is now my new supervisor.
Oh,
because everybody moment of silence for our old supervisor, Liz Kershner, who left us to go to retirement, so to speak.
So to speak.
Amy is my new supervisor. She's the new director of behavioral health. So this is a good opportunity to introduce her in her role, as well as to bring us this information that we need during this COVID era that's affecting our young people. And so I'm just waiting, and I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what they have to tell us because, I'm young. So this is meant just for me. Yeah. Don't let the gray fool you.
Yeah,
you are young.
So I'll say without further ado, we're gonna allow the ladies to introduce themselves and then go right into the topic of our discussion today.
Thank you, men. I kind of thought I was y'all's ace, but that's okay. I understand.
Queen. It's Queen.
The queen. Yeah.
You're good. You're my favorite.
So I'm Amy Cook. I am the new director of behavioral health. I've been with CareSouth almost 17 years. I'm really excited to be in this new role. I will very much miss my mentor, Liz Kershner. She has taught me everything I know. She built this program from the ground up to be what it is today, and I am forever grateful to have this opportunity. I'm excited about the New Year's, although this year kind of started off a little bad between the weather and COVID anyways. So I'm excited to give this podcast today about youth and mental health. And I've also got my ace, my partner, to introduce herself. So I'll turn it over and let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Amy. I'm Laura Chavis. I'm a school-based mental health counselor. I was hired as a school-based mental health counselor 5.5 years ago. I'm thankful that CareSouth and the County of Chesterfield saw the need to have a licensed professional mental health provider in all of their schools. So Chesterfield County contracted with us and some other agencies to make that a reality. I am based at Sherrill High School, and I serve the students and the staff here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me be a part.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being here. So like I said before, this podcast today is based around the youth and mental health during COVID-19. I guess we kind of thought that we were having a little break with COVID. This year started out, Omicron come in the picture. It kind of got, messy with the school system. And just last week, my kids were out. We've already been out on quarantine, and now they were out last week with virtual school due to the cases of COVID. Then we have weather, but one thing we want to be mindful of is all of this changing has really affected our children and our youth, and that's very, very important. My slideshow went a little fast, so what we've seen is with our youth is a huge increase in depression. We've seen a huge increase in anxiety, stress, trauma. These children are dealing with a lot of grief and loss from family members they have lost during COVID-19. And we're seeing a huge increase in substance use in the youth. And so we just want to cover today just to kind of give everybody, some statistics about what's going on, and then, what we can do, why this is happening, what we can do, what our children can do as parents, what we can do, and kind of what CareSouth is doing to address this pandemic and kind of help our children. So on October 19th, a huge thing happened. The children's mental health was declared a national emergency by the American Academy of Pediatrics, Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and Children's Hospital Association. This was a huge thing. What they're seeing is just such an increase in mental health. And in December, the United States Surgeon General actually published an advisory to address the growing concerns in mental health in our youth. So before COVID-19 pandemic, mental health challenges, they were still around. Our children still struggled with things like depression and anxiety. And it was one of the leading causes for disabilities, for poorer life outcomes, leading cause for emergency room department visits, suicidal ideation. Suicide, was the second leading, is so hard, second leading cause of death at one point. And with up to 1 in 5 children ages 3 to 17 in the United States are having a mental, emotional developmental or behavioral disorder. Well, then comes in the pandemic. And at the beginning of the pandemic, the emergency room visits for pediatrics for all mental health related reasons increased by almost, right at 31%, depending on their age. And it stayed high the rest of the time. So what this tells us, and you can see as it goes up, that mental health, it really started affecting our kids and our youth, and we're having to take them to the emergency room. A lot of parents, they may not know what's going on. What they're seeing is, okay, my child's isolating and they're staying in their room all the time, or they're seeming more sad or more emotional. And so, things happen with suicidal ideation, kids' grades are dropping, there's so much going on. And what we saw statistically is that the emergency room visits started increasing as well. So this is, something we really need to look in right now, especially with the new Omicron variant coming in the picture. here we are again when kids finally got to a point where they were back in school and everything was kind of getting back on track. Now we're out of school again. We're having to make sure that everyone's isolated 6 feet away from each other and that there's no recesses where kids can go outside and do things. So we really wanted to address this so that, we could give advice and educational materials to the community on what you can do and what CareSouth's trying to do. Specifically, research has been found that the youth go into the ED for suicidal thoughts and behaviors has increased from the start of the pandemic. The overall risk of presenting with suicidal related concerns has gone up like 133.5% higher among ages 5 years old. So 5 years old to 12. It's 133% higher than it was in 2019. And it's 69.4% higher in the 13 to 17 age. So this is a huge, huge thing. And this was released, by the U.S. Surgeon General and the reports that are, posted and given. So these are just some statistics I wanted to share. And Laura is going to take you through some reasons why the increase and kind of go in more depth with that.
Thank you, Amy. The school disruptions really were a big cause of anxiety for a lot of my students at the end of 2020, especially my seniors who their graduation didn't look like other graduations. And even last year's graduation had to be arranged differently for social isolation. The prom, that's a rite of passage for a lot of teenagers. That it did happen last year, again, under different circumstances, but 2020, a lot of things did not get to happen. There's always a question. The football team, bless their hearts, the coaches and all that so much that goes into high school football, that the whole terrain has changed around that, and so much stress and grief over the loss of students wanting to play their senior year ball, whether it's basketball, football, and those things had to be curtailed. And you would be headed for a game on a Friday night and, oh, wait a minute, the team is on quarantine and they couldn't go ahead with it. So a lot of stress, isolation, the social isolation with social media. That I don't know how much of in person maybe, but social media has kept them connected, but more isolated from family and more isolated from other types of support that they would get because of things being closed down or things not being available to them. Now, the family and friends things, when school started back in August of this year, within the first week, I was calling Amy and Liz and I said, look here, I have 8 students who are presenting for therapy because a parent has died. 8 students, and the grief that goes along with that. And then we had a teacher in our district that moved to another district who died with COVID, and it just, the grief that is heavy not only on our students but in their families because of the deaths that were related to the earlier variants of COVID. And of course, it's still going on. We lost a teacher this past December. He left school on December 21 for Christmas break and died that Tuesday before Christmas with COVID. So there's lots of the kids are experiencing all these losses without the the ability to cope with them, like a person who might be older, who've had more life experiences. Economic stress on family. Yes, the job, the job situations have been tough. I had a kid today telling me that about the bullying because some people have more money than I do and they get to have more clothes than I do, and that could be COVID related. Of course, that's always been too. But it has been the anxiety. I've seen so much more anxiety this year than I normally have, and it's related to people not wanting to leave home. Some kids don't want to leave home. They felt safe in their home with virtual school, with their parents nearby, and coming back out into the public has been very stressful for them. And a good part of the first 2 weeks with a good bit of many of these students is helping them work through that anxiety of being here and the normalizing it and encouraging them to do what they can do to stay safe. But definitely seen a lot of that. And if you can go to the next slide, Amy. What can they do? Reaching out, knowing they're not alone. I have a wonderful relationship with my school here at Sherrill High School. Everybody refers to me. Kids refer to me, the principals, the janitors. I mean, you need to go see Miss Chavis. You need to go see Miss Chavis. So I'm so thankful to be in here in the school so that I can be a front line with these kids. Because if you are going into private or even public mental health facilities, it may take 2 or 3 weeks for a student to be seen. But I'm so thankful to be here, and to be able to have that cheerleading team behind that. Yes, you can have help right here at the school. But a lot of times, though, this child is ready, but the parent is, kind of ready, weary about their kids seeing a counselor because they're not crazy and they're putting on, or that kind of thing. And just helping parents normalizing with parents that a child having someone that they feel safe to talk with, to de-stress and to decompress, and to actually listen to what they're feeling on the inside. Asking for help. And what I would encourage, if there are any adults out there listening, encourage your child, your teenager, to seek help for mental health issues. We don't have a second thought about taking our kid to the doctor if they're bleeding with a broken arm or whatever. Let's get them some help because they we want to get them well. But if your student is withdrawing, if your child is more irritable than normal, I know kids, have their attitudes, but if you see some big changes, get them some help. Ask, gentle questions. What's going on? Do we need to talk to somebody? That kind of thing. Know your kids, notice your kids. And number one, listen to your kids. That's what I hear over and over and over again from my teenagers. Nobody listens to me. I try to tell them, but they won't listen. So being a good listener and being noticing and encouraging them, the students who are isolating, who feel more comfortable at home behind a screen, to start gently encourage them to reach out to other social avenues as well. And definitely help trying to teach them how to manage their stress, how to work through anxiety, because their fears are real. People have died with this stuff. People are getting sick with this stuff. I could lose my mama. I could lose my grandmama because of COVID. I can't go see my grandmama because of COVID. The anxiety, the fears are real, but how to cope with that and manage that through this time I've never had to walk through before in my life. I know y'all haven't either, this magnitude. What's the next one, Amy? If you can go ahead.
I just flipped it.
See what we got. Oh, self-care. Yeah. Oh, I preach this with COVID, without COVID. Go to sleep, turn your phones off, use technology, but don't misuse technology. And get outside and get some sunshine. But that's, the kids do, it's not a pandemic, but an epidemic. All the social media stuff that adds to the stress and anxiety of our young people today, because they're so connected 24/7 to anything they want to be connected to, the positive stuff and the negative stuff. But definitely those things. Everybody sleep good, eat good, turn your screens off, and go play.
Okay. And this is what the parents can do. And Laura, you're very right as far as the children go. It's it's hard when even my children, when they're virtual, they're in their room all day, and that's really hard. That's hard on me. So I know it's got to be hard on children to not be able to get out and do things. And it is important to listen to your children and to watch those behaviors, because they can mimic anything from a stomach ache, headaches, crying spells that we just don't know, just very emotional and withdrawn, and being aware and knowing your kids' behaviors, and if there's any little change at all, addressing it and talking to them.
And acting out behaviors. If you have a child that's not normally argumentative, or not normally confronting, or having bad attitude, or if you see any change, the significant change in personality and behavior and attitude, you just stop and say, hey, this isn't you. Can we talk about what's going on? This just doesn't seem like you. I can tell something's bothering you. Instead of getting all defensive. And parents love to pull, I'm your mama, I can take you out. You brought you in this world, I can take you out. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. It's funny. And we probably all have said something to that degree. But when you catch it, say, hey, the way you're interacting with me right now is not appropriate. You won't disrespect me, but something's going on and I want to know about it. Can we talk about it? So, and then hopefully seek treatment, or, you don't have to have a chronic or an acute mental illness to have counseling help you. Just walking through the stuff of life that gets in the way of you living your best life.
Can I interrupt y'all and ask a question real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So for parents that may not understand how to start those conversations, how would you go about starting those conversations with your child? Because you communicate with your child on a number of different levels. Whether it's we talk sports, because I have a boy, a male, and talking sports, talking music or whatever. But to have these questions around their mental health and their self-care, mm-hmm. how do us as parents approach that subject with our children and have those conversations and start those conversations, if you will?
You're already in the door. If you're talking sports, if you're talking everyday life, if you have that connection, you're already in the door. You're going to be noticing, if you notice a change in those again, activities, attitudes, behaviors, emotional reactions, just say, hey man, that just don't seem like you. Is something going on I need to know about? The best way to have a talk with your kid is not face to face like this. Put them in the car and say, hey, go with me to Walmart. Mm-hmm. And because face to face gets kind of intimidating, but you get them in a car and you drive them to Walmart or drive them to Sonic and get them an ice cream or whatever. Let's go get something, just do something together and say, hey man, I don't know, I'm just picking up some kind of weird vibe with you. However you and your son or you and your child communicate. My youngest is an adult now, but I can remember him coming home from school and I knew when something wasn't right. And I would just go. And the thing is, I'd go and say, hey, what's wrong? And he'd say, nothing. I said, well, it really looks like something is. But when you're ready to talk, I'm here. 9 times out of 10, once he processed whatever he needed to, he would come back and have that spot. But you can't make them share, but you let them know, I noticed something's different. I'm here for you. If you don't feel like you can talk to me, I know somebody that I trust, we can get somebody for you to talk to.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a pastor, and I have children in my membership, and so you notice a lot of times that their attitudes and their demeanors and even their just their personalities have changed over time, and so I'm finding that their biggest problem is that they had so many hopes and aspirations for what they was going to do tomorrow. And then COVID came and then tomorrow changed. It changed the whole entire world. And so, it's become a world that they don't even know anymore, a world where they don't fit in, where they can't socialize like they want to, and a world they're fearful of, and I never had those fears. The biggest fear I had growing up was getting home when the street lights came on, or getting caught stealing plums off somebody's tree or something. Those are my biggest fears. But having to change my whole outfit around a mask, or even change my my socialization because I can't talk to you face to face. I can't hold hands with you. I can't go to your house. I can't ride with you in the car. Has really changed the whole landscape of being a child. There's too many uncertainties right now. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't know if they're going to be in school, or if they're going to, they know nothing. So I think the biggest thing that we have to do now is start destigmatizing counseling. And I'm an advocate for counseling. I believe in spiritual counseling, and I do believe that the Bible calls Jesus, he's the great counselor. But at the same time, he tells us in Proverbs, I'm just paraphrasing just for a minute. It says that without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. So it's important that we have people that can urge us along in the times that we fall short, and when our mind is not functioning the way it's supposed to.
I agree.
And
Amen.
and Liz, Liz used to say, there is no health. There is no health without good mental health. And so I don't care how healthy my body is. If my mind is not healthy, then my body's not going to function the way it's supposed to. And so I think we need to work more on getting our kids out, because idle hands, are tools for mischief. And so we have to get them out the house, doing things in the yard. We can't be with our friends, but we can go outside and do something. But we give them that time to close themselves in. Their little minds go crazy, thinking all types of things.
Yeah.
And so that's why, Amy, I think that's why we see an increase in suicides and overdoses in young children, because they have no outlet, and this is their only outlet right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daniel, I was wanting you to kind of address a little bit just the services we have as far as substance use disorder. And obviously all of our counselors provide counseling, all ages, and it's for anything from depression, anxiety, grief, and definitely increased substance use.
Okay.
And I was, have you seen a lot of increased substance use? I know we've talked about the increase in overdose. That is substantial right now. And just, what have you seen as far as the MAT program at CareSouth, or, just in general in the public?
Of course, we see a lot of overdose with our younger population. Mm-hmm. Some of my children's friends that they went to school with, they're gone because they overdose, and because they didn't have that intervention, and because there's so much stigma around seeking help for your addiction, or you're talking to somebody, because it makes you look bad. And so we're seeing an increase in a lower age group, because our MAT services start at 16 and go up. Anything below 16 has to be approved. But I'm thinking, I'm seeing that now. I go up to an 8-year-old and I'm smelling marijuana on them, and we understand that now marijuana is not the same marijuana that I grew up with. It's laced with fentanyl. It has everything else in it. And so it's scary, because these children could be doing something just to pass the time, just to fit in. And it caused them to lose their lives in one experiment. They can lose their lives. And so we need to start doing more education at a younger age about substance use, and do more advertising about MAT, how we can help assist you with your addiction of opiates and controlled substances through medication and through counseling. Mm-hmm. And so it's very important that we make this a family topic, not just in church, or not just in a medical setting, but in church, in your house, around your family, in your neighborhood, in schools. It needs to be talked about more, because the problem is going to increase. We have the epidemic, which is the substance use disorder and the opiate misuse, but we also have the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So it's too many demics going on, and so it's kind of hard to grasp all these things, and especially when your mind is young and it's not developed. The average person brain is developing to at 26 years old, and so having to deal with all these adult issues and adult decisions is confusing, and it's causing much stress and much anxiety. So we're going to see an increase in our department in MATSUD with children who are younger than 15 to 16 years of age that's going to need our services. And we have to be prepared to receive them whenever they come in.
Yeah. Thank you. I really wanted you to address that, because one thing that happens when you see children at these ages, as young as 8 years old and even as young as 5 years old, is what the statistics say. You see these kids get a little bit older and they don't know how to cope with anxiety. They don't know how to cope with depression. And their first thought, or friend comes or whatever comes along and says, here, this will make you feel better. Here we go. And there it starts. And that's all it takes. So, it's really important to watch that in our children too. I wanted to address just, what's CareSouth doing to kind of help our youth. Well, obviously, we are currently in 11 schools within our service area, mainly in Chesterfield County right now. We're hoping to expand that. And what I mean by that is we have counselors on site in the school system for referrals from all of the, the teachers, the guidance counselors, whoever, these people that see these kids every single day. Well, hopefully if they're in school, but, they see these kids every day, they notice a change in behavior, and they're able to make those referrals to the in-house counselors, and the kids never have to leave the school. It doesn't take any time out of the parents' day to have to get to appointments. They're able to see them directly at the school, and we're really, really blessed to be able to provide that service. We also, one huge thing with CareSouth is we have integrated behavioral health, which means that our patients are able to see our providers, our medical providers, for any medical issues, or the kids need to see a medical provider for whatever reason. Our behavioral health team and our medical providers work really, really close together to provide both services to all of our patients, youth and adults. We have 18 current counselors, one in every office that we provide services to. And anybody can be referred for counseling in one of our CareSouth offices. And we provide counseling for any age from usually, you may see 4 years old or so. We do have Dr. West, who is our clinical psychologist, who does all of our cognitive and developmental testing for our children, youth, even on into adults when it comes to cognitive difficulties. So we have him, and we also have telepsychiatry through the University of South Carolina that we can provide services for as well. When COVID started, it was a huge change even for CareSouth. Many of us had to work from home. Many of us started providing telehealth. And we're all, majority back in the office now. So we are continuing to provide that service to all of our patients, even the children. When the children were at home during the summer, or the children were quarantined or at home because the school shut down, we still provided, telehealth to them as much as we possibly could through video or phone. And, that's a way to get to kids these days. So some of them did really well with, going off to their room, talking to the counselor on their cell phone, even doing a video chat. But we just want everybody to know that these services are available. We work really closely with our medical providers to provide this. It's a very, very, very soft handoff. If the kid needs to come in to see one of our medical providers, to be walked straight over to our counselors. We try to get patients in. We could, sometimes same day. If it's crisis situation, we will take care of it that day. But, we're here, and anything that CareSouth can do to help, whether it's school-based counseling, whether it's MAT services, substance use, we're here and available in all of our offices.
And Amy, if I had to say something to the parents and to those who are guardians over children, I understand that sometimes we get busy with life, and the children have to take a back seat to what we're doing. But we have to remember, we can't be so busy handling business that we forget true business, which is our children. And we have to start paying attention to them and really start looking at them more. I mean, just really being observant, not just dismissing every single thing as a bad behavior or disruption. It's talk and see if it's something deeper. My son, his last year, right before graduation, he had a meltdown. It hit him all of a sudden. It was already bad because he was going through this pandemic. He couldn't be around his friends. He's doing, school from home. And so I get a call, Dad, I can't breathe. And so I go home and I find him on the floor, and he's, this, and I was like, what's wrong? What's going on with you? And it's just, Daddy, it's so much. And sometimes they don't feel like they can talk to us because it's like, Laura said, we're quick to tell them, look, ain't nothing wrong with you. Go ahead and sit down before I take you out, before I knock you out. Whatever's going on, I knock it out of you. Some things you can't knock out, you have to talk out. And so we have to pay more attention and be a little more empathetic to them because they're going through something that we didn't go through at that age. And so we have to be more watchful and be more vigilant about them. I mean, and that's just me. I got a little grandson who's 2 years old, Junior. Everybody knows Junior, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, everybody knows Junior. Junior is something. And he's 2 years old. And his mind is, his brain is already functioning, at that young age, watching Google Gaga. And we tell him, put the phone down. Okay, so he learned if I put the phone down, before I put it down, I can transfer it to TV. He knows at 2 years old how to transfer a video from YouTube to the television. So their minds are already functioning at that capacity at 2 years old. Imagine that we're going to have to start counseling a whole lot earlier because there's so much the brains are open, they're wiser. And so they're taking on a lot. So we have to be even vigilant towards our younger and our toddlers and everybody. Just watch them, really.
Yeah. You're right. You're exactly right. And then you have my child who lives at home with a counselor who comes up to me and says, no, I'm not anxious. Everything's fine because I'm asking all the time, and, but, and I have, a son that's supposed to be graduating this year and I am the parent sitting back going, oh, I hope that he can have a normal graduation, but, you never know. That's not long away. And it may not look normal, and it's hard for parents. And that was one thing that I wanted to address that I don't think we did, just to go along towards, I know we're wrapping up, but one thing parents can do is take care of themselves. Self-care for even the parent, because if we're not healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, we cannot take care of our children and the things that they're bringing home. And so it's important to, even us to unplug from social media, put the phone down, get off, Facebook, listen to your children. But it's even good for us because we're listening to all of that every day, or we're watching it every day. And when we're stressed and upset, we clearly, that's what our kids see. They learn from us. So that's important for parents to do as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest with the kid, because we're going to have bad days and we're going to act stupid and say stupid things, do stupid stuff and things that we regret to our kids. Go and say, hey, that I was acting stupid. I'm sorry. Can we do this? Can I have a do-over? It's not, you're not losing your authority and your power with your child if you admit to them, I messed up. Let's start this over. Can you forgive me? That kind of thing, because we are under so much stress. Yeah. There's so much stress. One, two income households going down to one. I got kids that are quarantined and I've got to work, and it just piles up and piles up and piles up. So give yourself grace, but when you mess up, own it. And because they're learning how to deal with their emotions by modeling us. They're going to learn how to be humble and empathetic and owning your own stuff by watching us do it. If we act like we're super, nothing ever bothers us, then that's what we're training them to behave as well, is to act like everything's okay even when it's not.
Yeah. Yep.
So let me ask you, you mentioned something earlier. I caught something earlier when you was talking, Amy. You mentioned crisis. Counselors being in here handling things in a crisis, and just from knowing that and being in different professions that I have been in the past, crisis can happen at any moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So from a community perspective, individuals in the community, whether it's the shop owner, Miss Johnson at the corner store, our brothers in law enforcement, or whomever in the community, if we encounter a child that may be in a crisis, what are some ways, or give us some tips, or I don't know what I'm trying to say, ways to be able to approach that child and get them the help that they need, or do we calm them down? Do we, you know, what do you suggest?
I think the most important thing with addressing children, and it's different for every age, obviously. For young children to kind of get down to their level. Is everything okay? Can you tell me what you're feeling? Young children may feel like they may have no idea what they're feeling. They can just tell you physically what they're feeling, but getting down and finding them help immediately. If any child comes up to an adult, or a youth comes up to adult and says anything along the lines of, I just can't do this anymore. I feel tired of living, or, I don't want to be here anymore. Those are things you take very, very seriously. No matter what the circumstance, the circumstance is, if you feel, that this child is in distress or in danger, you call 911 immediately, or get them in to see a counselor that day, no matter what. And what I mean by CareSouth with crisis situations is if we know it's a crisis situation, we're going to see that patient that day, and we're going to do the necessary referrals that need to be done. And we have seen an increase in having to send individuals, whether they're children on down. I mean, I've sent 11 years old to the hospital for suicidal ideation, who were very serious. I've sent patients to the hospital for multiple things when it comes to what they say. I've had patients that have had a plan. That's one thing, that if a child, comes to you and not only says, I feel this type way, but that they have a plan. I'm going to go home and take this bottle of pills, or whatever the case may be. It's taking control right there at that moment. Getting in touch with, it doesn't, whether it's law enforcement, 911, you call 911 and you get somebody to them immediately. And, and if it's a kid, other than crisis, that's not suicidal, you want to get them into a counselor that day, call our call center. Whatever counselor is available would be available to do telehealth, or, whatever area they're in. We're in 5 different counties. So whatever area they're in, we can get them into a counselor that day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Good information. Good information. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good information.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh. No, I don't think I have any. You got anything, Dane?
I'm just glad that we got this information out. And if you know anybody that's dealing with substance use, any children or anybody that's dealing with substance use, please contact CareSouth and ask for me, or ask for a member of my staff, and we'll be more than glad to point you in the right direction to start your treatment and get you on the road to sobriety. We're here for you. There's a lot going on, but we want people to understand that you don't have to self-medicate. There's other avenues that you can take to get yourself into a better mental state, and starting with our behavioral health department and our partners across our 5 counties. So,
absolutely, and just like Amy alluded to, I mean, we have counselors at nearly every one of our centers in our 5 counties, and in the counties of Darlington, Dillon, Marlboro, Chesterfield, and Lee. And you can walk into any one of those buildings and access a counselor, and to have someone to talk with. And not to mention the schools where Miss Laura is. She's in Chesterfield, and she sees the kids there. If they're one of her students, or a parent that has a child in one of those schools that we service, reach out to Miss Laura, or reach out to Amy, whomever, to get those kids the help that they need.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And our medical providers are phenomenal with addressing mental health.
Yes.
They are phenomenal at seeing, anywhere from children to geriatric when it comes to mental health and knowing how to treat them and medicate if needed, whatever the case may be. And we work really, really closely with all the medical providers, and it's a great team.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Great information. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as always, you want to reach us at CareSouth Carolina, you can reach us out on our Facebook page. You can reach out on Twitter, YouTube. You can also check our website out. I'm sorry, CareSouth Carolina-Carolina.com, CareSouth-Carolina.com. Reach us at 866-498-0399. Like I said, go to our YouTube page and subscribe to the page to get more information and content like you got today. Like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, right?
That's right.
Thank you, ladies. And we appreciate you coming with some great information, some information that is well needed. Some information is going to help us, many of us and our kids, and many of us as parents, adjust as we continue with this pandemic. And not only just pandemic, just in life and period in general.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right. It's CareSouth Carolina Community Live Podcast.